people will wonder, why are you so confident? I said, because you know what? If that choice doesn't work, I'll make a different choice the next moment. We'll know. But if I'm standing here and not making a choice, that is a choice. You will become more bold, more confident, and you will know that there's an option in the next moment that comes in. You can have a different choice. And that is the power that I want people to have, the power to make constant choice, because that is what's available to you as a human being.
Hi, Hussein. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely, me too. Really looking forward to this. And we're just going to dive straight in, which with the first question, Hussein, which is always, what's important to you?
Yeah, I think that's it's a very interesting question when you shared it with me because uh, across different periods of my life, that changed. And today, what's important for me is to live a life of adding value to the people around me. Like I wake up and sleep thinking about the word value. How can I contribute? How can I add value? And apparently, there are many ways to do that with writing, with even in certain conversations. And I think it has always been there, but the how it manifested in my life was different. So that's what's important for me every day.
Fantastic. And when you say so adding value, so where would you say at the moment, if we take it right now, because you say
Hmm.
that's changed over the years, but how would you say at the moment, what's your real thing that you're trying to add value to people at the moment then?
For me, right now, is for helping people live a life that is. I think if you look at life right now, there's so many things that we're worried about. AI kind of taking over the world. We don't know how things gonna kind of change or uh, unfold, if you wish. Uh, Different political, let's say, challenges around the world. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not sure we even know what's happening right now. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's I'm trying my best from my side at least to help people look at life a little bit deeper, a little bit more meaningful, bring joy. The word joy is very important for me, how they can kind of bring joy to every moment. And I do that with my writings, uh, kind of highlighting certain topics, helping people live more on principle, which is hard because kind of life doesn't teach us that way. It teaches us, we need to win, we need to be successful, we need to make money. I try to find a link between what you want and how you can live a life that really fulfills you from the inside. And that's what my book is about. That's what I write about. That's my conversations every day with my kids and with the people I meet and talk to.
Love it. It is a really, um, it really sort of resonates with me. The first thing we say that and what you said, but it's also that almost trying to help people, enable people to see fulfillment and joy against that sort of, as you say, winning or financial winning or whatever it is. It's almost a little bit of, arguably against the grain, isn't it? It's kind of like that sort of, as you say, what we're not necessarily taught, depending on culture and that, but that being quote unquote successful is more about the materialism side of stuff.
Yes.
So what was it that is it something that you've sort of journeyed towards that, for that thinking? What makes you have that thought yourself and then to then try and enable that in other people?
It's funny you asked that because today actually is the day when my book is launched. And one of the things that I
Fantastic.
said is I tried to write 4 books before this book. And while writing, because it's very related to what you're asking, while writing those books, some of them I kind of given up halfway through. Some of them I wrote them completely, was ready to publish, and I've given up on them. And mainly because I realized that the reason I'm writing them is so that I can be called an author and have a book. So by the time I finished them, I had really very little connection with them. And I had that feeling across my life when I've achieved something that I wanted so badly. And the moment I've achieved it, it meant nothing for me. And I don't know if you relate to that or
Yeah.
we achieve. So there are many things we want and there's nothing wrong with them, but what I wanted from them and what I thought I would get was very different to the feeling. It was fine to have them, but the moment after is like, yeah, it's done right now, and it didn't give me what I was looking for. So throughout my life, I wanted to look for something that continuously brings me that joy and that fulfillment. And I've been in search for it throughout my life. And where I found it is where you contribute, at least for me, when I contribute the most to my purpose, the thing I wake up thinking about, I sleep thinking about. Even when I'm not thinking about it, it's living within me, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah.
So, and that is a constant search. It's never like a stable thing. It evolves with me as a person. So I was looking for the things that connected to that. And my life has been, for the past, I think, decade at least, has been a constant search and discovery of what that mean. And it's a deeper level. So my evolution is more evolution in depth rather than, let's say, new things, if you wish. So that is how materially things changed for me from seeking those things. By the way, I still seek them. Like, when my post on LinkedIn, just for a silly thing, oh my God, it hits, so and so impressions. I'm happy about it. It's like, oh, that's fine. That's great. But where I get the most value is when somebody sends me one message and says, this thing kind of really touched me, even though it's not in public, nobody has seen it. I see it, but the person having that impact and send me one message is better than all the thousands and hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
impressions.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay to have both, and I think it's important to know what is different about them. Kind of like the difference between having a sweet, which is nice, or having food that fills you up and gives you energy. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. No, I think it's it really does sort of resonate with the sense of that, because it is going back to that first point you said about fulfillment. And even like you shared about, we're going to get into the book you have published very in a moment, but the fact that you wrote other books, and you said there it was almost because you wanted to be able to say you were an author, but then almost getting halfway or all the way through and then realizing it's almost writing it for the sake of that versus in the content or the meaning you were writing. And that's really powerful, because we can get, I've so many people, like my clevers, myself included, get caught up on something because it's the thing versus that you've got a connection to it. So it's a really powerful thing. But also, I think what you said there, to echo that, you can have those both things. You can have the success from the numbers and the data, whether that be impressions, you say, from a social media post or likes and things like that. That's not as a negative thing. But if it's the thing that you're sharing is true to you, do you know what I mean? If you're sharing it just to get that, then you'll only be looking to get more and more and more of those likes. I don't know about you, but it's sort of the tangent here. Sometimes you'll put a post together, you'll craft it really well. You think, oh, this is the message I really want to share, and get that voice out there. And it might not make huge amount of impressions or whatever, but that was your voice and it's out there. And then I could post a picture of my dog and it goes viral, and you're like, Jesus, like, but it's that thing of like, you have to still stick with the messaging you're trying to put out there and kind of take the good and the bad of what comes with those two things. So I'm glad that you said that stuff is still okay to like and be important. So I hope people recognize it. But I want to then dive into then the book that you said today. I just seen it before I came on. You've just officially published today. So tell us about that book.
Yeah. And I really want, because you said something really
Yeah.
important. I'll jump right back
Yeah.
into that.
Go
But
for
I
it.
think it's very important. It's okay to have all of it. I think it's what we connect to it. And actually that relates to the book, because the book is called The Dark Art of Life Mastery. And mastery is something that is very internal. It's not external. It's not about success. Success is usually about other people recognizing that, because you can't. It's like an award. Giving yourself an award. Like I would give myself this little thing. I love grandizer. It's like, so this for me is a reward for me. but I can show it to everyone and nobody would care. But if I show an Oscar, for example, or let's say the award winning, when I had an ad agency, it's about how many people recognize that award, that puts it, if it's an Oscar, it's like, the top in the acting, or if it's, I don't know, like a Tony, it's less so, or a different kind. So success is usually, and I'm not in any way defining it, but usually it's how people recognizing our position in society in relation to something. Whereas mastery and fulfillment is something internal. We either feel it or we don't. So you can have all the success in the world, but still feel nothing internally. And the key thing here is that you can have both. Many people think, well, success doesn't matter, it's fulfillment, or fulfillment doesn't matter, it's success.
Mm.
No, it's both. Both fulfill different aspects. Like I said, the sweets and the food. You need the food for nourishment. If you eat all, I love sweets. So if you eat sweets all the time, I'll feel great, when I eat it, but then my body would crumble because I'll get a sugar high, and then, I'll crash, and I will not have anything that sustain me. I will not have the proteins. So, but I love to have the food. But not. But imagine, if you wish, the protein shake. It fills me up, but I don't enjoy it. If that makes any sense, I
Yep.
want good food that actually gives me good nourishment, and that's what I aimed with the book. The book is all about that. Since we're talking about food,
Yeah.
making people hungry right now, is that the when a food that is cooked really well, it's something that you enjoy eating. And if it's healthy, it fills you up with the right kind of energy and builds you up so that you can, be in life the way you want it. You can have the energy and all of that. So that's what the book talks about. It talks about these things in life that give you this mastery in life and fill you up from inside. And that's what I wanted to write about. And through my experiences, I've lived in three cities: Damascus, the oldest capital in the world; Dubai, kind of the place where everybody wants to go; and Vancouver, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I lived in those three cities. I spent Damascus like 3 decades, a decade in Dubai and a decade in Vancouver, and had to build my life several times from zero, whether it's moving to a new city or building a company or surviving after a crash, whether it's a financial crash or my own crash. And all of these taught me that if I couldn't rely on external elements in life for fulfillment, because it's never stable. If I rely on those, then one day I'm happy and the other day I'm at the bottom. And I didn't want that. I was looking for something more sustainable, something I can always come back to. And that was my search. And the book kind of takes me through, or takes the reader through that search as a conversation, as a real conversation. For example, one of my chapters is called Then You Die, and it's literally 4 or 5 sentences. And it talks about, listen, we have 25,000 days in this world. We don't think about it this way. We know we have years, but then if you think about it that way, it's like, you're gonna die soon. So are you spending every day at your own terms, pursuing the stuff that matter most to you? um, so these are the kind of conversations. Some of them are short, some of them, but they're very real. And I spent my life, a big deal of my life, never having those conversations. And I wanted at least my kids and the people I care about, and the people which I care about, a lot of people in the world, I want us to be a better species. That was my contribution, to have those conversations so that you can have them, even if you don't have anybody around you to have those conversations with.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Fabulous. And it's I'm just taking it in the sense of what you've put down on paper, like, and how you and what you're trying to do. Is there and I'm going to stick with the book there. Is there, and because it's based on your experiences and trying to be it as a conversation. So is there a sort of a path? Is it kind of a pathway through the book? Is it kind of, does it take people through a journey? Is it sort of like a process? Is that the way to read it? Is that what I'm
Hmm.
asking?
That's a great question. I wrote it in such a way that you can open it literally anywhere and
Great.
you'll be fine. Each chapter is kind of a standalone, and you can read them all in sequence. The way I do it is, they're short chapters. I mean, the longest I think is like 2, 3 pages. They're big font,
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
for many that I sent them, they say, "Oh, 260 pages. Well, that's a lot." But actually, every other page there is an illustration, because I wanted it to be an experience. And because I love art, I thought of actually some of the best conversations that I have, especially with the woman I love, is while we're walking in a gallery, looking at paintings and having a conversation. And it would be conversation about anything, sometimes inspired by the painting, sometimes inspired by whatever we are in life. So it's like that. You would open it, and Antonio Piedade, who's the who's the illustrator, which I love his work. He illustrated the for each chapter, so you can dive or drown in the art and kind of just look at it and get whatever you want from it, or you can read a few words and kind of live with that. And it goes from uh, life, as in sometimes I'm at work, so I'll talk about what happens in work, and there are sometimes it's inspired my own experience. There's a chapter where it talks, I start the day, I get uh, kind of a notification from a podcast that wants to interview me, the boss wants to meet me, my daughter kind of crashes into my home office and says, "I want you to play with me now." And these, so how do you balance these things? And it wasn't about time management. It was more about how do you look at things and how do you evaluate them? What matters most to you, and what you have to deal with after, based on your choices. The fundamental core of the book is choice. Do you have choice in life, and
Mm,
how do those choices unfold, and how do you make choices in the moment? And that is what mastery is.
mm. Yeah, because I'm interested from your perspective, and from your writings and maybe the people that you've worked with. From my experience on that side of it is the people that I've sort of worked with, they almost believe that they believe they have less choice than they actually have. And that's what's keeping them stuck, in a sense of like they think they've run out of choices, and either they think they've, that sort of phrase, "Oh, I've tried everything," that awful phrase that we've all used at that point. But it's like, I think we have more agency than we maybe believe, and we're led to think that maybe it's beliefs in ourselves, in the sense of we're keeping ourselves in that. What's your experience with that and people's belief of what choices they have?
That's such a great point. Yeah, we do believe that choices, we look externally for the
Yeah.
choices that are available for us. So let's say it's like ice cream. I have, strawberry, whatever, all of the, let's say, the flavors that are in front of me, or two flavors, vanilla or chocolate. The idea here is, it's not what choices are available, is that when you're making that choice, you make the choice with intent, even if it's the only choice that you have. Somebody commented on one of my posts, Viktor Frankl, who was, stuck in I think one of the concentration
Yeah.
camps, and he wrote the book, I think, A Man's Search for Meaning. And he didn't have a choice. He's there, you're stuck, but he made the choice to live. And he one of the key things that stuck with me is that the difference between, because you don't have a choice. There are the Nazis, and they have the choice over who lives and who dies.
Mm.
But he noticed that the people who chose life had more of a chance of living. And the idea is, this is not about, mind over matter, or, you changing your life with your thinking. It's more about, when you make a choice, even if it's the only choice, it's your choice. It's not by default. And that is the whole thing that I'm aiming for. i
Mm.
was i was born and raised in Damascus, Syria. I didn't have a choice in where I was born. I didn't have a choice, my family being poor. I didn't have a choice that i I studied engineering. I had engineering or art, and engineering is the only thing that was, the only thing that I could graduate, that I can make money. And there's no hope, because I studied electronic engineering. The only place I could work integrated circuits was Intel, factory, which was only available in Israel or in America. As a Syrian boy, there was no path for me to travel to America. never thought. I loved rock music. I wanted to be a band leader, and like David Coverdale and White Snake, one of my favorite singers, and there's no path for that at all. At the music industry right now, you have Spotify, you have like you can record anywhere, upload anywhere. But at the time, 20, 30 years from now, you have to go through the music industry, and maybe you would succeed. So everything I wanted had zero chance of happening in the world. And still, what I focused on is the moment, what choices I have in the moment. And I had a brilliant life. I chose to play guitar. I chose to, when there was an opportunity to get a band, I chose to get in, and I did the very best. So wherever I had and whatever opportunities I have, I took it all by choice. And that, just by that, what that trained me is to have choice in the moment. And the more choices I made, the more I made them my choices rather than, well, this is what life offers me, I'll just go along. I never went along. I always, even if I had like a little bit of a chance of making a choice, I will make that. Even if it's, making a choice against something, I will make that. And what that trained me, I didn't know that at the time, just to be clear. Like, it wasn't, an intelligence or I was like smarter than anyone's. It's just I worked with what I had. But I noticed later in life that I was much faster and much more capable than the people around me of making choices very quickly. It's like, okay, let's go here. And people will wonder, why are you so confident? I said, because you know what? If that choice doesn't work, I'll make a different choice the next moment. We'll know. But if I'm standing here and not making a choice, that is a choice. I realize that. And once you realize that, and once you work with it, and once you realize that no matter what we do in the moment, and no matter how prepared we are, the next moment will completely upend that. You will become more bold, more confident, and you will know that there's an option in the next moment that comes in. You can
Mm.
change your mind. You can have a different choice. And that is the power that I want people to have, is the power to make constant choice, because that is what's available to you as a human being.
Love it. Absolutely. And it is that, um, as you say, that doing it with intention, that you're doing it because that's what you want to do. And it is that thing of, you say there, like, if the choice isn't the right choice in that moment, you'll make a different choice. And that's the
Hmm.
other thing, that when you were saying that at the end there, is the other thing that's potentially keeping people stuck, is that, um reason they don't make a choice is because they're worried it's going to go wrong. That whole fear of failure, or
Yes.
it's called imposter syndrome or self-sabotage. Again, it's that sort of, wanting. This is it to me, and this was a big for me, and because it's how things are worded. I think for me, when I was working with a coach a couple of years ago, or a year or so ago, and it was the let go of the outcome. That's the one that worked for me. I was so trying to fixate on controlling or having some sort of control of the outcome, which is just nonsense. It's like, it's a future thing. You don't know what will or won't happen. So that was the big thing for me that enabled me to just keep trying stuff. Just put in that, as you say, that put in the decision, to make the decision, to do the thing,
Mm.
and what will be will be. So to me, it was let go of the outcome. That was a big shift for me. Anything for you like that? Was that you? Because I'm interested in how you, because you've gone through all these experiences. Were there any sort of shifts for you that kind of pushed you to do stuff?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think the funny enough, the post I posted on LinkedIn this morning was about control and how much we
Mm.
worship at that altar of control. We want control of our lives, and we don't realize we don't control shit. We don't control
Yeah.
anything. It's like I mean, think about something very recent, the pandemic. By 2019, that's the story. I was like, like you're celebrating life, and then 2020 comes along, and we're wondering, why did the paper, like the toilet paper, disappeared off the shelves out of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
We're running around trying to find toilet paper. If anyone would have told you that would happen 3 months ago, it's like, that's ridiculous, what are you talking about? And so, like you said, we try as much as possible to control the outcome. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Mm.
Like, trying to control every one of us, I want a certain outcome. I want today, for example, to sell 1,000 copies of my book. We want those kind of things. There is nothing wrong with wanting them. But just like you said, we have to let go of the idea that we control that outcome. It's perfectly fine to have objectives, goals.
Yep.
You should
Yep.
have them, and you should aim for something. Just let go of your ability to control that, or the illusion. Not that you're able or not. Put it simply, you're not able to do it. It's not
Yeah.
up to you. Mainly because life doesn't give a shit. One of the metaphors I talk about is that life is like a sea, and it will throw everything just for the sake of it. It will throw everything at you. All the waves, all the storms, everything. And suddenly your life is in shambles. I remember I arrived at Dubai, and it was like the biggest success. The company I worked with, we started a small little startup that did online websites. And I had no idea what I was doing, 2002, 2003. And the first company we worked with was the Disney of the Middle East. And we were over the moon for working with them. And we didn't know what we were doing. Like at the time, building websites was very new. And in 3 months, we built them a website that they loved, and they acquired the team. And they gave me a job in Dubai. It was like the greatest day of my life. And I went to Dubai a month after I was in Dubai, or I think like 2 weeks even, the Iraq war started. And how can I control this? 2003,
Yeah.
Iraq war started. The whole economic situation completely shifted. And suddenly I was in Dubai. I was supposed to be paid more than I've ever been paid in my life. For someone in Syria, to give you an idea, I was paid as a engineer $100 per month. That was like the salary. And suddenly in Dubai, I was being paid $2,000 a month. I was like, this is incredible. I'm like the richest guy in the world. And suddenly they couldn't send me my salary. Here I am in Dubai, stuck in a hotel, and I had, the last few dollars to buy a loaf of bread and some olive oil and just to eat. Like, how could I control this? I couldn't have, I
Yeah.
had everything planned, and I had the contract, and everything was saying that this is what should happen, and it didn't happen. So these are the things that kind of caused me to let go. Like you said, I didn't want to let go. I was very attached, and I'm still, by the way, I'm human.
Yeah.
I'm attached to the result. But it forced me time after time after time. When the first few times you're like, maybe it's a coincidence, but if it's repeating, it becomes a pattern. It's like, okay, I can't control anything. Let me focus on what I can control. And the only thing I can control is internally. What do I want for me? And what I found is the things that I want, if I'm focused on what matters most for me, and I'm laser focused on that, usually that that keeps you centered, that gives you focused, and you can only make a difference in the present moment. So at that moment, like I it wouldn't be worth it to plan my career or my life. At that moment, it's like, okay, where do I get the next meal? And it was focused on, who do I know? How do I talk to them? So I was finding choices in the moment. No amount of planning, no amount of, goal setting would be present. I had to eat. So these are the kind of things that force you time and time again to focus. And if we are aware, if we don't lie to ourselves, we notice that pattern about life, that we can't control the outcome, can control just our choices in the present moment. And that is where we create our future, in the present moment, through our choices.
Love it. Love it. So if that's your beginning to Dubai, and you were saying there were you there you said for 10 years, is that
For 10
right?
years, yeah. 11
So
years,
how
exactly.
how did that then, obviously you were able to say get those next meals. What then did your sort of how did your life then evolve in Dubai? I'm interested.
Um, after that happened, I think I was more engaged into, because after that, let's say, was resolved. The next thing that happened, the VP that actually orchestrated the deal left the company, and he had a vision for our work, and that's gone. So nobody knew in the company what to do with me. So I was like this free agent jumping from one company to the next, and I had no idea what entrepreneurship meant. I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew is I had an internet connection, because a few years back I was in Syria. To give you an idea, it took like 6 hours to download a 3 megabyte website. But suddenly I was in Dubai and I had like 2 megabits connections. Like, okay, I can download the whole internet. I was like, so I was learning voraciously. I was reading as much as possible. And for me, every opportunity, instead of charting it as a career, what do I want from life? I said, what can I learn? And that shift in perspective came like every opportunity that was in front of me, somebody would say, do you know this? It's like, I'll jump in. I'll see what I can do. And I jumped in. I learned how to prepare the best pitch decks. I learned how to help businesses start. And most of the time I had no clue what I was doing. And that led me to throw myself in even some more. And I was spending from 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. at the office just so that I can learn as much as possible and add value to the people. And I noticed the more I did that, suddenly the more opportunities came. It's like, okay, so what are the things I started looking at? What are the things that will open the most doors? Knowing the most people, learning the most, and kind of jumping in and seeing where I can add value and contribute. So instead of asking, well, what's in it for me? Or how
Yeah.
does this help my career? I was like, well, let me, what do I have to lose? I'm sitting here, you know, because if I build my career, and there's nothing wrong with that, again, like everybody has their own life experience, but if I build my career, well, I was building my career and then suddenly, it's appended, because once that deal was set with the VP, I was like, okay, I'm going to work at that company and I'm going to become X manager or something. And that was shattered in the first 3 months. I was like, okay, so if that's the case, and I can't depend on outside influence to save me, nobody's coming to save me.
Yeah.
How can I save myself? So, and that was a journey. I mean, it wasn't like a moment that I got that.
Yeah.
It took me up until 2009. It took me like 6 years to let go fully of the idea that somebody has the solution for my life. Somebody's going to come save me, and somebody's going to come in, and change things for me. There's only me. And that doesn't mean I don't collaborate with someone. It was more asking of myself, how can I contribute to people's lives? And how can I add value to the point that they see me as irreplaceable? So I'm not going to depend on them to realize my value. I'm going to give so much that they have no option. So I use that. That's kind of my negotiating tactic. I would go into everything and I will come in with overwhelming force. Not, I don't have great negotiating skills. I'll come in and say, I'll give so much that people see, like there's no other way than having you. And throughout my life, I think I had 3 interviews for jobs. All the rest was people seeking me out and wanting to work with me. And maybe it works for others or not, but that's how it worked out for me, to the point that one of the jobs that I loved the most, which is here in Vancouver, working for Launch Academy, the #1 incubator in Western Canada. I was there working as a mentor, not work, kind of contributing as a mentor and being there in the community so much that they invited me to lunch and they said, Hussein, we want you to become general manager. Bear in mind, I was already giving the work. They said, well, I said, that's awesome. So you mean you're going to pay me for the work that I'm almost already doing? So this is how it unfolded from my life, and I learned it from the idea that I wanted more control, and I didn't want it to leave it for somebody else to realize it, and to leave it for somebody else to come in and make things work for me.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's really interesting because it's going back to reflecting on the very first answer of the question when I asked that first question, it was all about adding value. And obviously just, it's only probably maybe, I don't know, now through reflection, that's so important to yourself. But that's what you were doing, how to get sort of like, as you say, it was the intention was to say to try and obviously progress, but it was really about, well, how can I help as much as I can? How can I enable people? One, learning yourself, but then also being that person that you say that people can't do without. And it's that sort of, because it's also that the point of really to echo there, you said, is because the realization that no one's just going to give it to you. No one's just going to hand it to you. No one's coming in
100%.
to
Yeah.
go, here you go. We're saying, here's everything you ever wanted. It's that willingness to get in and do the work, but be that contributor, be the person that's pulling other people up, pushing other, you know what I mean? It's that really being the person there to, um, whether it be to cheerleader or actually get those people moving. Because the more people you help, it works. You know what I mean? You're the proof of it that actually,
100%.
yeah, absolutely. So how you because you say then you're into Vancouver. So how was the what was I'm going all the way through now. What was the transition from Dubai to Vancouver then?
Funny enough, I was really happy in Dubai, in the sense that I was having success
Mm,
after a few years of kind of building. Up until 2006, 2007, it was really hard because it was the starting with Spacetune, and then leaving it after 2 years, starting my own company, worked on remarkable projects, but it wasn't kind of, it was ups and downs, and then
mm,
ended up with my second tech company failing, and I lost like $1 million in that part of the world. Now remember, $100 is what we get paid per month in Syria.
mm,
In that part of the world, it's like losing $50 million. People could not even wrap their head around how can you lose $1 million that I didn't have, by the way. It's not like I had it.
mm,
So it took me 3 years to build back and pay people back there that I owed money to, and recovering, let's say, to, and then it was success from success to the other. I started several ad agencies. I started the first content marketing agency, and I was working with the best clients, best agencies, won awards. So it was really nice at that time, and had our community in Dubai. But we were, because my wife said, we want to build a life in a different place. Dubai is awesome, but you can be in the place, but never of the place, in the sense that
mm-hmm,
you don't have path to citizenship. And at the time, Syria, towards, I think, 2010, 2011, the war in Syria, the civil war started, and we we couldn't. It wasn't. We didn't have a place to go back, um, and be from. So that was challenging. So we thought
mm,
Canada is a right place to move. We love what we hear about the place. So we started the journey there, and we got the landing in 20 at the end of 2013, and suddenly my wife wakes me up. We got the email. We have to go to Canada. And like, suddenly I have to change all my life and jump into Vancouver. We chose Vancouver because Toronto was too cold. That's, it's like, it's no snow, and we chose no snow. So we had to kind of upend all our lives and come here. And I thought it was going to be easy. I have 20 years of experience. I was completely that person that is not starting the life. I knew where I was. I knew my value. I knew what I can contribute. And Vancouver shattered all of that, because I land here. I go to network like I do in Dubai. Nothing works. I apply to 200 jobs. Not I got like one lousy interview for a sales role that I didn't even get. I was like, why is it not working? And I was faced with the same question again, which is, I did what I thought I needed to do for success, external stuff, and nothing worked. So I had to search internally. It's funny that even as we build that experience, we have to remind ourselves and kind of anchor ourselves into that. It's never kind of, a given. So I had to look within myself and said, what can I contribute? Because I'm going out there to get, right? I'm going to get a job. And
yeah,
again, nothing wrong with that. But I'm trying to get something, and it's not working. So I was like, what can I contribute? And I said, well, first I need to meet people so I know who are the people here. So I started reaching out to people. I reached out like within a summer of 2014 to around 6,000 people in Vancouver. I grew my network on LinkedIn. I had like 100 coffees, and I started just talking to people. I didn't tell them I'm looking for a job or anything. I was just like, I'm new to Vancouver. I'd love to learn about you, what you're doing, all of that. And I had 5 job offers. And it's like, people would look at my work, would look at me. And just to give you, like, it wasn't like, a manager job offers. The job offer I got was a junior marketer. So even I had to accept to start all over again. And I said, you know what? It doesn't matter what role, it doesn't matter what it is. I know that I can provide immense value. And sure enough, the company I worked with and the CEO I worked with started as a junior marketer. Within like a few months, I was head of product. And after working with them for a couple of years, 4 years later, he wanted to work with me again because I was able to contribute and add value. So I think that what that taught me is that, oh, I can always find it inside of me. I don't have
Yeah.
to look for my value outside. It's what I find inside of me. So it reminded me again, after, again, reaching a level of success, remind me, where does value come from? It's from inside, and investing in myself. So I started reading again. I started contributing again. I started mentoring again, which led to the second job at Launch Academy.
Love it, love it. It was what you said there really hit me in a sense of, again, the difference in your approach. The first one you said there was like, I'm trying to go get something. So it's very much in sense of, you say, even just say, I'm trying to get a job. So it's about the thing you're trying to get versus the difference in approach of like, well, how can I contribute? And you know what I mean? Or just how can I meet, talk, even as you say, and then that having that, so the willingness to kind of go, you know what, I'm just going to reach out to people, just
Mm,
have a coffee, have a chat, talk to them. And I'm interested in a sense, when you went to those, for those, just to go into a little bit more detail, I don't want to put words in your mouth. When you went to those, sort of have those coffees with those people you meet, did you have like an approach, a game plan? What was the sort of intention when you went to have those coffees with them?
yeah. I love to do something called a no agenda meeting,
Yeah.
because if you're the best conversations happen when you when you're not intending to have them. I don't know if that
Yes.
makes any sense. Like,
Yeah,
it's those
absolutely.
coincidences. And if I found when I have an agenda, what ends up happening, and again, I do have meetings with agendas,
Of
but
course.
sometimes when you're meeting someone, it's like, I'll follow the conversations where it goes. And when you're listening deeply to someone, it's funny enough that people don't do that enough, and you would have people will remember you. It's a friend of mine, I think, or somebody said that, it says the best way to be interesting is to be interested. So the more interested you are in the person, the more listening you are, the more they remember you. And a lot of people think, well, networking and meeting people is about the ability to talk and the ability to wow people with with how eloquent you are. That's probably works when you're on a stage, but in conversations, it's how well you are listening and how intently and how much you care about the person. And I was genuinely wanted to know people, and I got to meet people who were authors. I got to meet, one of the people who are the biggest VCs in Vancouver. I can talk about him because I took his permission. He's a billionaire in Vancouver, and I reached out on LinkedIn, and he says, "You have an interesting profile." I said, "Let's have lunch." We had lunch, and I didn't have. I was worried. My biggest worry is like, who's going to pay for lunch? Because I was running out of money, and I didn't know who he was. I just because in Vancouver, unlike Dubai, people don't show, their status. You would meet someone and they would be just a normal person. Some of the billionaires here would be, in fact, the owner of Hootsuite or the founder of Hootsuite will be going around on a skateboard to conferences. So you wouldn't know him from somebody else unless you know him. So I was sitting with, his name is Praveen Varshney, the guy that I met, and I was sitting with him, and I asked him, like, "Hey, what do you like? What's something thrilling? What happened? Like, what are you excited about these days?" Just one of the questions I was asking. I was like, "Oh, well, last week we sold a company for $400 million. I was really excited about that." I was like, my jaw dropped because I couldn't comprehend how much money that was. Because remember, $1 million was like an enormous amount of money for me a few years back. I was like, I couldn't comprehend, and it's like the first ideas on my mind was literally two ideas. Number one, ask him for a job, and number two, ask him for money. He's not gonna notice, if he lists
Yeah.
a couple of 100,000 or millions. It's like so. So I was like, thankfully, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I asked myself, what are the most important questions that I can ask him to get the most value? And I asked him three questions. Number one, who should I meet in town? Because I thought this guy must know a lot of great people, because that's the only way to build a great business. He's a great guy, very down to earth, and he's kind of a pillar of the community. Um, Unlike any other, let's say, what you think is a billionaire, you meet him, you would not
Yeah.
think that at all. So I sat down and I said, who should I network with? And the second question I asked, where should I network? And I didn't ask him, where do you network? Where should I
No.
network?
Yeah.
So I was asking him to give me advice to me, kind of like mentoring me. And the third thing I said, what should I read? And I was asking him because, all of my learnings were from me thriving in Dubai. So by then, by the time I met him, I knew that a lot of the things that I did in Dubai didn't work in Vancouver. It's a different
Yeah.
city, different community. So that he sent me 6 emails, which introducing me to a few people, telling me where to network, and giving me some ideas of what to read. And I responded to all of them, which is something I always recommend people to do. Is like,
Mm,
a lot of people add value to you, but we rarely come back to them and say, hey, here's what happened. So I went and met the people he told me to meet. I went and networked in the areas. I ended up actually becoming the executive director of Thai Vancouver, which is a networking organization, because of I went to meet and I said, hey, how can I help? Which is a favorite question of mine. Puts
yeah.
me in a lot of trouble, basically gives me a lot of work. But those things kind of gave me a foundation in Vancouver. And that person became one of my biggest advocates because he saw that I'm genuine and I did act on the things that he
Yeah.
gave me. Up until I think the pandemic, every year we would have lunch together. In fact, just a couple of weeks back, we had our lunch together and we remained friends. And when I joined Launch Academy, he sent an email to the CEO telling him, you made a great choice by hiring Hussein. I mean, to have somebody like that who's a pillar of the community recommending you is a big deal. So these are the things I realize, like, oh my God, this is so much more valuable. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have some more money, but that gave me something that I could always take with me, that relationship, that those foundational kind of things. And it came from not having agenda, not knowing who the person,
Yeah.
and not entering the meeting saying, this is what I want from the meeting. Some meetings you have to do that. You're meeting with
Yeah.
clients or you're meeting with someone, for a particular reason. I think it's always good to carve a little bit to kind of go down a rabbit hole, see what you can
Yeah.
discover, see what you can find. And that was surprising. And that was one of the meetings. I had a lot of brilliant other meetings.
So, so much in that. It was, thank you so much for sharing that story because that is just wonderful. I love that. I love the fact that you just, it was, I think even the fact that you, maybe it was that sort of intention and making that choice because of the time you think things weren't working. But even like just the decision, oh, I'm going to just message this guy and see if he wants to have lunch with me. You know what I mean? Just even having that sort of willingness. And then when you're in the meeting, so many people, as you say, would have just gone, oh, I'm going to see what I can get out of this person now. You know what
Mm,
I mean? But to having that intention to kind of still go and ask those questions. But that's some brilliant questions you asked him there. Like, sort of and you said, who people should I meet? You know what I mean? Like, and not, because I'm sure maybe not, but there's some people who are that sort of high up, always getting people to get from, again, that whole get, what can I get from this person versus again, sort of like, well, how could he still help me or enable me? But bringing it back to you and how can you support them? Wonderful, wonderful story, and also about how building relationships, genuine. It's one of the things that I sort of focus on in that when I work with people because it's when people, I think we can often think when we say the word relationships, we immediately
mm,
assume an intimate relationship, and
yeah.
but it's like relationships is from the closest of an intimate relationship to the person you walk past on the street. That sort of initiation of like, how do you create, generate, even just to go out of your way to make someone feel good? Like the way you've obviously, how you network would talk to people is obviously a massive. Is it something you've worked on, or is it something you've just kind of always had within you, that sort of
Mm.
building that rapport and relationship with people?
That's a great question. No, actually, it's something I had to work on.
Mm,
Before, I would say, in 2009, I joined, well, some, a few things significant happened in 2009. Number one, before that, I was reading about business and I definitely, I personally enjoy the company of people. Let's put it this way.
mm,
So I enjoy the company of people, but it wasn't kind of there was always that separation because up until then, there is that literature. Business is business and
mm,
life, life is different. And in 2009, several things happened. First of all, it was at the back of the financial crisis. I had left. Um, I had an ad agency, and my partner at that ad agency was heavily invested in properties, and that collapsed in Dubai. So he came and said, we have to fire everyone, and you have to start all over again. And we started the company together, and I knew I could start it, but I said, you know what? I can't do that to the people I have. I have to leave. I know I'm versatile and I can find my way, but five, six, designers, that it was an ad agency in the market where everybody's being fired, they're never going to
Mm.
find. So let them stay for 2 years. I can leave. You can use whatever money you're going to pay me to pay them. My wife was out of her mind. Like, how could you do that? We have 2 kids. You can't do that. I said, I don't know. I have this confidence that I can find my way, and I can't live with the idea that I have work and they don't. And that's always been my case. Is that I have to do work in a way that kind of aligns with my principles and values, and I
Mm.
can't live with myself if I look in people's eyes and I prefer myself over them, because that's not leadership. So I took that. That was the first decision, you know, putting people ahead of me. And the second thing is I went and took all the money I had and I put it into a coaching course. Um, and that coaching course taught me or reconnected me with I can do work that I love. Before that, business was like any client, I'll work with them. It's just business. And after that, it's like, you know what? I want this feeling. I want to work with people that I love. Because coaching is all about, you have to care about the person's life in order to really coach them. You have to be really interested. So it really connected me with that. That's a very innate human thing that we have. But business, the way business was done, at least that I was part of, teaches us to no, business is business. It's not personal. And then this connected me with personal, and it was business. I never ended up coaching, but it connected me with that. And the third
Mm.
thing that happened is I joined an organization called Business Network International, or BNI. And in BNI had a philosophy called giver's gain, which is you go around giving as a way to gain. And it taught us the foundations of trust. I had just finished a book called The Speed of Trust, which is an incredible book by Stephen M.R. Covey. He's the son of Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that book completely changed my life. After losing the $1 million and having a lot of issues in the market, it taught me how to rebuild trust. So all of these things kind of culminated to, well, now I know that I can go build trust with people, give as a way to get as part of closing the cycle. And there was also a book that was wonderful called The Go Giver, which is instead of being a go getter, going to get, you can go give as a way to
Yeah.
get. And those things taught me what no agenda, like you can go and discover people and build that trust. And when you build trust, and I think the way they mentioned is that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So they need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. And that kind of shifted my perspective. And that led to how I started to do things. So that kind of gave me the foundation that I learned. And I bring that to everything I do right now. I go around trying to find who can I know? Because not everyone, by the way, you can't do that with everyone.
Yep.
You have to be genuine, because people will sense if you're not
Yep.
genuine. So you have to know them, and after know them, do you like them? And if you like them, can you trust them? And if that's the case, then you can build a business on top of that. And since then, it hasn't failed me once. If I build it that way, usually it's a very valuable relationship, whether it's a member of the team, whether it's a client, or whether it's a partner, and kind of changed my life. So
Yeah.
2009 was a very important year that kind of
Yeah.
gave me that path.
I love it. I love it. And the reason I really do love it as well for people who are watching or listening is the whole thing of people might just think, oh no, just Hussein's just that friendly sort of guy. Like he's just,
Mm,
you know what I mean? It's like, no, that there is, and you are obviously very, but there's
thank you.
also, there's a process, there's a sort of again, get back to that intention. It's kind of like, and not sort of, and as you say, it's not being false in a sense of I'm following a script and stuff, but it's knowing these are the sort of things that work, is having some sort of methodology behind it, but then applying it to how who and how you are.
Hmm.
But as you say, it still takes effort. It still takes intention to put it in there, to do the work. So I think, because a lot of people could think, oh no, that's just him. So there's all these things, as you said, that can be learned. That's obviously something that's important to you. Is the lifelong learning from what the conversation you said.
Oh, 100%. You have to
Yeah.
continue to learn and apply, and only then. It's like everything, like we definitely there are people who are, let's say, naturals, you know,
Mm.
in anything, in
Yep.
acting, in sport, in everything. There are naturals in writing. But that is, even those people who are natural, they will tell you that they took years sharpening, their skill and all of that. So I've taught it. I know it works because I've taught it because there is this perception that whatever we are unable to do right now, it's easier to say, well, that person is naturally capable, because then that gives us the excuse of why we are where we are. Because it's a lot of work to accomplish anything worth doing in life. What is it? I think uh, success never comes. Never, the secret to success without hard work is still a secret. That's the quote I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
love it.
There's nothing without hard work that comes in. Of course, there are people who are lucky, people who win the lottery, but anybody who knows the odds of the lottery, they're minuscule. So, do you want to wait for that universal lottery that gives you the unique talent, or do you want to work and kind of confirm what you're going to get through your hard work? And I preferred work because it gave me more control. It gave me more choice over what I choose to focus on. And I learned it from learning the guitar, because I saw people who were extremely talented. I when I first started to wanting to sing, I wanted to sing, and my voice was horrible. I was like, I don't know how to sing. But then I saw that on guitar I trained and I became good at guitar, and I became like actually fluent, and like, I had fluency in how I played, and whatever tune I think about, I'll play it. I was like, maybe that applies in everything in life, and everything I started working on, it became better. The more I put effort into it, the more it gave me. The more I gave it, the more it gave me back. I was like, huh, so that's how it works. So, and that is what I teach people. I was like, and I taught people who thought they could never network, they could never succeed. I taught them in minutes how to work a room, because these things, some of them are not that hard. It's just sometimes it's a shift of perspective, because you don't need to change who you are. That's the other thing that people kind of, you don't need to become somebody else. You need to be you, and be, that you in front of people, and allow people to be themselves. And then you would connect with people you're supposed to connect with. And the people you're not supposed to connect with, you will not connect with. And that's how nature goes. But people, what they want is I either get everyone, or get the people I wanted to get, or I don't, which is kind of like, that's not how life works. Anybody who has been in love, or had friends, or, loved certain things and went after them, knows that you kind of like what you like. And that's how kind of we congregate and form these different groups. And that's who we are as human beings.
Absolutely. No, love it, love it. So obviously, barring you've had the book launch literally today. What's the latest thing that you're involved in at the moment, along
Mm.
with the book?
Yeah, we're kind of putting together a few businesses. We have a business called Next Decentrum, and the idea from that is to bring technology, advanced technology, and transformation to different organizations. So we work with companies that are successful, unique. Like, we're working with a collectibles company from Dubai. We're working with the largest inflatable water park in the world. Um, we work with museums quite often. I love museums, love art. And the idea is, how do we actually kind of if there is one word that anchors everything I'm doing, is transformation. How do we take them from where they are to where they need to be? And we work with them. We see what are the principles, what do they want to accomplish, and we bring technology, strategies, growth, anything that's possible. We partner usually with those businesses, and we we understand that in today's world, you can't just do one thing. Like, a company
Mm,
can do branding for you, and that's perfectly great. But unless you know how to use that branding, unless you use it the right way, that work may end up being unhelpful. So we come in and we say, we'll bring everything and we'll manage, not everything we do. Sometimes we bring partners that are more skilled at doing that, but we manage it all towards a unique goal. And that comes from the holistic approach that I approach to working with people. When I worked with
Mm.
entrepreneurs, that's where I learned that. When you're an entrepreneur building a small company, big companies have a ton of resources and can afford kind of specialization. And that's where specialization in business comes from. You specialize in a unique thing because it's a massive company and there's so much work in that specialty. But for smaller companies, specialization is a killer because most of the time you have to wear several hats, you have to do a lot of things, and they interconnect with each other. So we approach things, the reality that way, and say, okay, so how can we string together what you need towards the objective that you want to achieve? And many times we decide that even the objective they're going after is not the true objective that they need to go after. So we come in and we say, we fix the strategy for them, where they want to go, and then kind of align all of the different components of business so that they are heading towards their success. And it works out really well. We end up doing the stuff that we love: branding, strategy, marketing, a lot of things that I've learned along the way from working on several companies and working with hundreds of entrepreneurs. So it's a lot of fun, and we do it with Next Centrum. We also have a store that brings it's called a calligraphy art store on, and what we're trying to do is I love the written word, I love poetry, so mixing art with calligraphy and bringing it to people's places. In fact, I'm taking art from the book and kind of using the most important words, which is something I'm going to release soon, kind of a line of those products. So love to do a ton of stuff. Writing a second
Yeah.
book as well. So a lot of
Awesome.
things that I'm engaged in. Everything that life can allow me to do in these
Yeah.
24 hours, I'll do. Having and getting enough sleep, of course.
Yeah. No, I love it. Love it. And um but I love in the when you've been talking though is the eclectic things that you're involved in. So, from for sort of like, and even you said it yourself, from that sort of people maybe perception of business being this sort of very sort of narrow sort of thinking of just about going from one thing to the next, and that sort of, as much as those things are important, the numbers, the figures, the returns, etc., all important. But it's kind of like bringing, from where you've been describing it, there's some amount, huge amount of energy that you obviously bring, huge amount of expertise. But the word I would bring as well, from my perspective, this conversation, is a level of humanity that you seem to bring, or from just this conversation. So there's kind of like, so it's a bit different, you know what I mean, in sense of what you're, when you're working with people. But then you have this sort of the writing and the arts and stuff. So I love the fact that there's this sort of just myriad of things that you are involved in and go after. I think it's I think it's just wonderful. I think it's
Well,
wonderful.
thank you for that. It comes from a different understanding of life, and because
Yeah.
we grew up and say you have to focus, and maybe in certain areas you do. What I realized, for me at least, and I think it works for people, that life is uncertain. So if I work on a
Mm,
company, for 6 years, I can't guarantee that's going to be success. So if I'm focused for 6 years on one thing and one thing only, and that turns out to be a failure, or it doesn't reach the potential that it reach, or there's a ton of things that I want to do as well along the way. Like, it doesn't have to be where it's just related to the success of the business. There's
mm,
a ton of things I want to do. Like, while I was playing guitar, I also wanted to sing, I wanted to write, I wanted to do multiple things. And I have this life. I don't want to wait until, I couldn't say, well, let me first learn the guitar, become a virtuoso in the guitar, and then I'll learn how to sing, and then I'll learn how to, I'll focus on life doesn't work that way. Most of the time, a lot of things are happening at the same time. For example, I can't say right now, like, I'm writing extensively right now and I'm writing about things that matter to me. I can't say, well, let me now focus on my business. And then when I'm done with my business, then I will write. Well, now I have something to contribute now. Um, just like I need to be in my kids' life right now at a certain point when they need me. So this is the uncertainty of life kind of unfolding and me dealing with this. And sometimes the opportunity, we're working right now on, on something of funding a startup, or there's an opportunity in Egypt with one of the areas that I love so much. I'm fascinated with Egypt. You can see probably some of the stuff behind me of like I got the opportunity to do that. I can't wait. Well, now I'm focused on my work. Let me finish that. It's like the opportunity opens now. So it's me kind of reacting to what life has to offer and seeing with a certain amount of focus. Obviously, I don't say yes to everything, but I say yes to enough stuff that relate to me and I feel connected to. And most of my life is about managing those rather than maintaining focus. So I like to manage
Yeah.
the different things I'm interested in and the different kind of attention. And I think I can, and I've developed an ability to do that. Some people can't, but for me, it's like I love shiny objects in the room, and I love jumping from one to the other, and
Yeah.
that gave me the life that I'm enjoying right now. And for me, it's beautiful, and I wouldn't have it any other way, except for the few losses along the way. I could have done
Sure.
without them,
Sure.
but and that's how it unfolded for me. I think what we need to ask ourselves is, what do we want out of life? This is what I wanted out of it. And I couldn't stand, like, but for somebody else, maybe they were completely comfortable in spending, several years focused on one thing, and that's what brings them joy. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
it was more of an internal search rather than here's how life is, and it's also an understanding that there's nothing certain about life. So I'm not focusing just for the success. If I'm focusing because I love it. If I'm focused right now on something, is because I choose to, not because what it's going to give me after, because there's no guarantee. So as long as I think the choice is coming from inside and what I want out of it rather than what it can give me, I think that is a good guide, a good compass, at least for me, and I recommend for others as well, to ask what their compass is, what's their North Star, and to continuously check in with that, not one time. Because sometimes we have this sunken cost fallacy. I'm doing this because I've been doing it, and I'm doing it because I've been doing it for longer. Whereas, what is it right now? Does it still hold the same value? Does it still give the same love and same attention and gives you the same joy? And if yes, by all means. And if no, it's time for rediscovery of what that joy is for you.
Absolutely. When you were saying there, or you were talking there, it was reminding me of something that I think about quite a bit, from the conversation I've had and people I work with, and the whole, I suppose, sorry about the idea of this podcast is for people to not to be inspired. So inspiration, not imitation. So it's not
Mhm.
about copying someone. It's not about, oh Jesus, well, Hussein's doing 10 different things, I have to do that. Whereas your personality literally can't cope with it, and you're literally about, it's like, no, it's that's how he lives his life. That's what works for him. So can you be inspired in how he's living his life to live the life that you wanted? Be inspired by it versus thinking, oh, I have to copy it. Does that make
Yes,
sense?
100%.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with imitation. In fact, if you look at, let's say, the best artists in the world, when they first started, they were imitating someone,
Mm.
and that's fine as long as you constantly check in internally. If you don't have a purpose, like a lot of times, like I need to find my purpose, I need to find my purpose. Well, sometimes you can adopt a purpose until it falls apart, and it's not
Yeah.
what you wanted. There's so many times I did stuff that I thought it would give me joy, that I thought it would be fun, that I thought would be great, until I did it, and it's like, well, I did that, and it's like not what I wanted. Let me, I'll try something else. But at least I went after it. And you said something at the start when we say we spend a lot of time trying to get it right, trying to make sure.
Mm.
It's like trying to say, I'm not going to play basketball until I'm sure that I'm going to be someone in basketball. Well, you're never going to know unless you kind of carry a ball
Yeah.
and shoot some hoops and find out that you suck at it, or
Yes.
that you enjoy. Even if you suck at it, but you enjoy it, or you don't enjoy it at all. It's like, no, I thought it's going to give me this, but the feeling it is. And the same thing, you go into a conversation, or you like someone and you talk to them, and then you find out you don't, and you thought that the conversation is going to unfold a certain way. It didn't, and but you had the conversation, and now and now you can make a different choice. And that's the power of making choices. You make the choice rather than waiting until you make the right choice, because the
Yes.
right choice is a fallacy. You never know it's right until you make it, and until you
Yeah.
put it to the test.
100%. Absolutely. Um, You've I think you shared a couple in this conversation already, Hussein, but I always like to ask the guests who come on, are there any quotes or phrases that are important to you?
Oh, 100%. One of the quotes that changed my life completely is, I don't remember who said that, but he said, "At any given moment, there's someone you don't know that is looking up to you to learn from your words, thoughts, and actions." And that completely shifted my life because I've always never saw myself as someone that people look up to. In fact, today, and
Mm.
even the quote that I wrote about the book is like, I always thought like, I'm only going to write a book if I had something about, like, who's going to learn from me? I have nothing. And then I learned after working with people that even the slightest things, like the things that I didn't even, I think you mentioned that, the things that we don't care about or things that we think are small, they end up making a huge difference. And the things that we think like, oh my God, I have to come up with this brilliant thing, and we orchestrate it and we craft it, and it's like nobody cares and it doesn't impact anyone. So like the picture of the dog that you said, sometimes that
Yeah,
brings so
yeah,
much joy to people. It's like, oh my God, that's
absolutely.
exactly what I needed this morning. So that quote completely shifted my life because I started becoming more aware of how I show up in the world. Because before that, I
Yeah.
didn't care because who's going to look up to me? I'm a nobody. And then I realized it's like, holy crap! I was like, there are people around me that are learning from me, that are looking up to me, and I started becoming more aware of that, and that kind of shaped how I show up in the world. And I became more thoughtful, and it actually shaped one of the agreements I have with my kids. Is like, mind your thoughts, words, and actions. We have set of agreements that we run in the family, and one of them is mind your thoughts, words, and action. Basically, put your mind into your thoughts, words, and action. Don't just have them. Don't. I mean, it's okay to say anything as long as you chose to say it. As long as you chose to do it. So it's intentional because that's when you learn from it. So that kind of shaped my life, and that quote changed me completely.
Love it. And who would you say have been the biggest influences in your life?
Oh, probably the biggest influence is my wife and my partner. We have a love relationship. So I fell in love while in university, and she's been my biggest advocate, and one of my biggest advocates, if not the biggest. She invested in me. She actually helped me. She invested money and helped me buy my first computer, and she became my partner in the businesses. In fact, after losing a lot of money, she jumped in and she said, "I'm going to partner moving along, moving forward." And she's been partner in the last 5, 6 businesses that we've been together. And she is the biggest critic of mine. It's extremely hard to get her to say, "Well, this was good." And I I I underestimated how powerful that is, but she shaped most of it because she never likes anything I do. So I'm always pushed to do even better and better. Like I do the best thing and I show it to her, and everybody will be raving. It's like, what do you think? I think, in fact, one of the funniest stories is I remind her of that when we used to be in love, and we're still in love, but when we used like the early in our relationship during university, I would write poetry for her and I would give it to her, and she would send it back with corrections, grammatical. I was like, freaking hell, I wrote poetry for you. And she would send it back. It's like, yeah, but you have this, but you have the poetry. And I'm writing to, I was like, you couldn't just overlook this. No, no.
I
so,
love it.
so it was, so she's the biggest influence in my life. And she's the
Love
reason
it.
I am who I am.
Yeah. I
And of
love
course,
that.
the other biggest influence is my mom. She used to wake me up at 4 a.m. to make do dictation, English dictation. And she would, when I was in high school, she would wake me up and sleep in my bed so I can study for exams, so that I don't come back. So I used to like she would stay up with me, make me sleep, wake me up after 4 hours of sleep. And it's she because of her dedication. She was a teacher. She was teacher of special needs. I remember going to her school and seeing how she treated. That's how I became someone who's accepting of someone regardless of their background. Something I don't talk enough about because they were special needs. There were people like burned completely. There were people who were different kinds of special needs, and she was their teacher. She would give all her love and all her attention. She would draw. So a lot of the stuff I absorbed without even thinking about it, because I
Mm,
saw how dedicated she is, and that kind of the drive that I have is definitely because of her. She was kind of polymath. She would draw, she would prepare, and her book is incredible. And I was like, try to rise up to what she did for those kids. And that's these are the two probably most influential
yeah,
people in my life.
wonderful, fabulous. Um, Hussein, it's been an incredible chat with yourself. I've so enjoyed it, and to learn about your life and then what you've done, and the book that you've wrote. I do have one more question before I let you go, which is
Please.
what's important for your future?
Mm. I think that we have, and it sounds like a big goal. I think what's important right now is that we have a better world
Mm,
that allows for people to fully go after their full potential and to enjoy it. I think what hurts me, at least, is that in our world we have enough resources, we have enough technology,
mm,
we've reached so much to be where we are right now. It's painful. Like, I thought by now we would have figured out a ton of the shit that we haven't figured out so far.
yeah,
So I think what's important for me and what I'm dedicating my life for, and that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I continue writing right now, and that's what the work I'm doing is heading towards, is to help change where we are right now, to add
mm,
even a little bit
yeah,
to building a better world that allows for people to live with joy, to live to pursue what they want to pursue, to live with freedom and access. And that is, I think, what's the most important thing that we can dedicate our lives to right now, and what I'm dedicating my life to, in addition to my responsibilities as a father, as someone who's leading a business. But if all of my rest of my time is towards kind of speaking up, helping people find a voice, helping come together so that we can build a better world. That's what's important.
love it. Absolutely. Wonderful words to finish it on. As I say, it's been absolutely wonderful to chat to you, Hussein. I've loved every minute of it. I want to make sure that people continue to connect, follow, and discover what you're doing, how you're doing it. So we will make sure links and or everything are shared in the show notes. But if you would like to just shout out now where people can connect with you on one line, where they can get your book.
And I want to highlight, first of all, you can search for me, Hussein Hallak. You'll find my website, husseinhallak.com. You can search for The Dark Art of Life Mastery. I think it's available everywhere that you can buy a book. And the idea is that the book is Creative Commons. So you can actually take it, rip it apart, rewrite it, share it with whoever you want to share, as long as you attribute it so that they know where to find it if they want. But the idea is that I want those ideas to go beyond me, because they were never mine. I'm a channel through for all of the learnings I have from life. And I want to give it so that people can do. So if you can do that, and you can, maybe you'd help someone. Maybe like me, you'll discover that there's someone wanting to learn, that you can help them. And that's my wish. So if you can do that, I would be very, very appreciative to whoever is listening.
Fantastic. So all of those links to that Hussein just mentioned, they'll all be in the notes, guys. So make sure you do follow, connect, and say definitely look into that book as well. Again, once again, thank you so much for chatting to me, Hussein. It's been fabulous.
Thank you for a wonderful conversation. You've been amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to What's Important to You. If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if it resonated, share it with someone who might need it too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment or ask a question, and let's keep the conversation going. I'm James Dean, and I'll be back soon with another real conversation to help you reconnect with what truly matters. Until then, take care and stay curious.